Samsaradava Nalalita Loka Taranaya Karunya Ganaganatam Praptasya Kalyana Gunarnavasya Vande Guroshi Charanaravindaam Mahaprabhu Kirtanaritya Gita Vaditramadhyam Manasora Romanchakam Pashutaranga Bhajo Vande Guroshi Charanaravindaam Shivigrahara Thana Nitya Nana Shringaratam Mandira Marjanado Yutasya Bhaktam Chaniyunjatopi Vande Guroshi Charanaravindaam Chatuvidhashi Bhagavat Prasada Swadvana Tripta Haribhakta Sangha Kritarva Triptim Bhajatasa Daiva Vande Guroshi Charanaravindaam Shiratika Madhavayora Para Madhurya Lila Gunarupa Namna Shiratika Madhavayora Para Madhurya Lila Gunarupa Namna Pratikshana Swadana Lolupasa Vande Guroshi Charanaravindaam Nikunja Yuno Radikeli Sitai Yayari Pir Yuktera Peshaniya Tatrati Daksha Dativala Pasa Vande Guroshi Charanaravindaam Sashatari Tena Samasta Shastre Utasthatha Bhaveteva Sadbhi Kintu prapoya priyeva tasya Vande Guroshi Charanaravidam Yasya prasada bhagavat prasado Yasya prasada nagati kutopi Yasya prasada bhagavat prasado Yasya prasada nagati kutopi Jayam suvam stasya yashasti sandhya Vande Guroshi Charanaravidam Vande Guroshi Charanaravidam Vande Guroshi Charanaravidam Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pisthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pachatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Haraya Namah Krishna Yadavaya Namaha Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha. Hare Haraya Namah Krishna Yadavaya Namaha Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha. Gopa Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudana Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohana. Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita. Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunatha Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunatha. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Nila Madhura Radha Nila Madhura Shri Radhe. Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Baladeva Jaya Subhadra Jaya Sudarshana. Jaya Sitaram Jaya Lakshmana Hanuman Jaya Sitaram Jaya Lakshmana Hanuman. Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha Lakshmi Narasingha Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha. Jaya Gauranitai 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 Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Nitai Gaura Hari Bolo Hari Bolo Hari Bolo Nitai Gaura Hari Bolo Jai Om Vishnu Pada Brahmamsa Pradaka Acharya Ashtota Shata Shishimad His Divine Grace Abharachandra Vrinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON founder Acharya BPT founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnu Pada Brahmamsa Pradaka Acharya Ashtota Shata Shishimad His Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai Nam Acharya Srila Haridasa Kuru Ki Jai Premise Koho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Dada Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Braja Bhumi Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Shri Mayapur Navadvip Dham Ki Jai Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Shri Ayodhya Dham Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Yamuna Mai Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Samavrita Bhaktivinda Ki Jai Gaura Premanandi Hari Hari Bo. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Hare Krishna. Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste Narasimhaya. Dahlad Daine Hiranyakashipurvakshaha Shilatankanakalaye Ito Narsimha Parato Narsimha Yato yato yami tato Narasimha Bahir Narasimha Hridaye Narasimha Narasimha Madim Sharanam Prapadye Tava Karakamala Nakham Adbhuta Shringam Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanubhringam Keshavadhrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Dalita Hiranya हिरण्यकशिपूत तनुभृङ्गा केशवधृत नरहरिरूप जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय केशवधृत नरहरिरूप जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय लक्ष्मी नरसिंह जय लक्ष्मी नरसिंह जय लक्ष्मी नरसिंह जय लक्ष्मी नरसिंह जय प्रहलाद महाराज प्रहलाद महाराज प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज भक्ति विघ्न विनाशक लक्ष्मी नरसिंह स्वामी भगवान की जय भक्त शिरोमणि प्रहलाद महाराज की जय
नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी 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 नमो नमः राधा कृष्ण सेवा पावो हे अभिलाषी राधा कृष्ण सेवा पावो हे अभिलाषी राधा कृष्ण सेवा पावो हे अभिलाषी कृष्ण सेवा पावो हे अभिलाषी ये तुम्हार शरण लो तारा वांछ पूर्ण होय तुम्हार शरण लो तारा वांछ पूर्ण हो कृपा कोरी कोरो तारे वृंदावन वासी कृपा कोरी कोरो तारे वृंदावन वासी मोराए अभिलाष विलास कुंज दियो वास मोराए अभिलाष विलास कुंज दियो वास नयने हेरिबो सदा युगल रूप राशि नयन हेरिबो सदा युगल रूप राशि निवेदन धार सखीरनुगत करो निवेदन धार सखीरनुगत करो सेवा अधिकार दिए करो निज दासी से अधिकार दिए करो निज दासी दीन कृष्ण दासे को ये न मोरा हो दीन कृष्ण दासे को ये न मोरा हो श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेमे सदाई न बासी श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेमे सदाई न बासी यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. वृंदाय तुलसी देव्याय प्रियाय केशवश च कृष्ण भक्ति प्रदे देवी सत्यवत्याय नमो नमः। वृंदाय प्रियाय केशवश च कृष्ण भक्ति प्रदे देवी सत्यवत्याय नमो। वृंदाय तुलसी देव्याय प्रियाय केशवश च कृष्ण भक्ति प्रदे देवी सत्यवत्याय नमो नमः। देव्याय प्रियाय केशवश च कृष्ण भक्ति प्रदे देवी। वृंदाय तुलसी देव्याय प्रियाय केशवश च कृष्ण भक्ति प्रदे देवी सत्यवत्याय नमो नमः। प्रियाय केशवश च कृष्ण भक्ति प्रदे देवी। वृंदा देवी तुलसी महारानी की जय।
There are 10 fences in the matter of chanting holy names that should be avoided. There are 1. To blaspheme the devotees of dedicated life for the name of the Lord. 2. To consider name the demigods Lord Shiva, Brahma to be equal to independent name Lord Vishnu. 3. To disobey the order of spiritual master. 4. To blaspheme the Vedic literature or literature pursuing the Vedic version. 5. To consider the glory of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination. 6. To give some interpretation to the holy name of the Lord. 7. To commit sinful activities on strength of chanting the holy name. 8. To consider chanting Hare Krishna one of the auspicious ritualistic activities, offering the Vedas as fruit activities, karma, kanda. 9. To instruct a faithless person about the glory of the holy name. 10. To not complete faith in the chanting holy names, and to maintain material attachments, even understanding so many instructions on this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to Vaishnava must carefully guard against these 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve desired success. Krishna Prema. Now let us have a most humble obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of our Lord. Live to thy peace, we can pursue everyone, and therefore compassion, forming conditioned souls. Vancha kalpatarupishya kripasindu sevacha patitanam pavanechyo vaishnavechyo namo namaha. Ananda Koti Vaishnavindaki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Shikshastakam ki jai. Jeto Darpana Marjanam Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapanam Shriya Kairava Chandrika Vitaranam Vidyavatu Jivanam Anandam Pudivardhanam Pratipadam Purnamita Swadanam Sarvatmasnapanam Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Bahudha Nija Sarva Shakti Tatra Pita Niyamita Smaranina Kalaha Eta Dishi Tavarkripa Bhagavam Mamapi Durudevami Disham Iha Janina Nuragaha Trinatapi Sunijena Tarorapi Sahishnuna Amanina Manatena Kirtanya Sadaharihi Na Thanam, Na Janam, Na Sundarim, Kavitam Va Jagadisha Maye, Mama Jammani Jammanishvare, Bhavata Bhaktir Haituki Tvai, Ayinanda Tanuja Kinkaram, Patitam Man Vishame Pavam Buddha, Kripaya Tava Pada Pankaja, Stitaduri Satesham Vichintaya, Nayanam Galadashrudaraya, Vatanam Kadgada Rudaya Kira, Pulakai Nichitam Vapur Kata Tavanama Grahane Pavishati Yuga Itam Nimishena Chakshusha Pravisha Itam Shunya Itam Chagasarvam Govinda Virahe Name Ashirishava Padaratam Pinnastumam Adarsanam Marmahatam Karotuva Yatha Tathava Vidathatu Lampato Mat Prananatha Suse Eva Na Paraha Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Chaitanya Shikshastakam ki jai. Glory to Shri Krishna Sankirtana, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life of repeated births and deaths. This Sankirtan movement is prime benediction for humanity in large because it spreads the rays of benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases ocean transcendent bliss and enables to fully taste the nectar for which all is anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone grants all benediction to human beings. Thus you have hundreds of millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names you have vested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, all the kindness enables us to easily approach you by holy names, but I'm so unfortunate I have no attraction for them. One should chant holy name of the Lord in humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than straw in street. One should be more taller than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. O Sanha Mahajananda, I'm your eternal servitor. Yet somehow I fall into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. O my Lord, while my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant holy name, while my voice choke up, or hair my body stand and end a recitation of your name. O Govinda, feeling our separation, I'm considered the moment to be like a great millennium. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I'm feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and it shall remain so if he handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipable Lord, unconditionally. Shri Chaitanya Shikshastakam ki jai. Shri Mangala Aarti prayers ki jai. Om Magyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Karavin Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manopishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Soyam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurung Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakham Vitam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine. Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pachayate Shatarine. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale. Srimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Iti Namine. Shri Varshabhanavi Devi Daitaya Kripaptaye. Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Dayine Prabhavin Namaha. Madhuryo Chala Premadaya Shri Rupa Nuga Bhaktita. Shri Gaura Karana Shakti Vigrahaya Namostute. Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinadarine. Rupanuga Virudapa Siddhanta Dvanta Harine. Namo Gaura Kishoraya Sakshat Vairagya Murtaye. Vipalambara Sambodhe Padam Pujayate Namaha. Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Sachidananda Namine. Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Virayate. Gaura Virbhava Bhumistvam Nirdishta Sajanapriya. Vaishnava Savabhama Shri Jagannathaya Te Namaha. Vancha Kalpatarupyascha Kripa Sindhu Pyevacha. Patitanam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Namo Mahadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate. Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaurateshe Namaha. Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam. Bhaktavataram Bhaktakham Namami Bhakta Shaktikam. He Krishna Karna Sindho Dinapanto Jagapate. Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate. Jayatang Surto Pango Mamamanda Matirkati. Masarva Swapadam Bojo Radha Madana Mohano. Divyad Vindarana Kalpajimadaha Shrimad Ranakara Singhasanasto. Shrimad Radha Shila Govinda Devo Prishtaribi Sevimano Smarami. Shriman Rasarasarambi Vamsivata Tathastitaha. Karsham Venusaner Gopir Gopinatha Shriyestunaha. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavanishvari. Vishapanusate Devi Pranamami Haripriye. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Shri Advaita Tata Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Jai Shri Guru Pranama prayers ki jai. Shri Brahma Samhita ki jai.
Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha. Anadiradi Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam. Chintamani Prakara Satma Sukha Paviksha. Lakshariteshu Surabhir Apipalayantam. Lakshmi Sahasra Shatasam Brahmasevyamanam. Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Venum Kvanantam Aravinda Dalayatasham. Parharvatam Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam. Gandharpakoti Kamaniya Vishesha Shopam. Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Alola Chantakala Savanamare Vamshi. Ranangadam Pranayakeli Kalavilasam. Shamam Tribanga Lalitam Yata Prakasham. Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Angani Yasya Sakalendriya Vrittimanti Pashanti Panti Kalayanti Chiram Jaganti. Ananda Chimmaya Satu Chila Vigrahasya. Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Advaitam Achotam Anadi Mananta Rupam. Adyam Purana Purusham Navayovanam Cha. Vedeshu Durapam Adurapam Atma Bhakto. Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Pantastu Koti Shatavasara Sampragamyo. Vayuratapi Manaso Munipangavanan. Sopyasti Yat Prapada Simya Vichinta Tatve. Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Ekopya Sora Chayitum Jagadanta Kotim. Yachaktirasti Jagadanta Chayayatanta. Antantarastha Paramanu Chayantarastham. Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Yad Bhava Bhavita Diyo Manujasta Teva. Samprapya Rupa Mahimasanayana Bhusha. Suktaryam Eva Nikama Pratithaistu Vanti. Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Ananta Chimmay Rasa Patibhavitapi. Starpiya Eva Nijaruptaya Kalapi. Goloka eva nivasati kilatama puto govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami premanjana churuta bhakti vilochanena santa sadeva hridayeshu vilokayanti yam shama sundar machintya guna swarupam govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami ramadi murtishu kalanyamena tishtam nanavataram makaro bhuvaneshu kintu Krishna Swayam Samabhava Parama Pumam Yogo Vindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami.
Shri Ramasamita Ki Jai. Krishna, who is known as Govinda, is the Supreme Godhead. He has an eternal, blissful, spiritual body. He is the origin of all. He has no other origin, and he is the prime cause of all causes. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, the first progenitor, who is tending the cows, yielding all desires in abodes built with spiritual gems, surrounded by millions of purpose trees, always served with great reverence and affection by hundreds of thousands of Lakshmis or Gopis. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is adept in playing on his flute, with blooming eyes like lotus petals, and head bedecked with peacock's feather, with the figure of beauty tinged with the hue of blue clouds, and his unique loveliness charming millions of cupids. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, round whose neck is swinging a garland of flowers, beautified with the moon locket, whose 2 hands are adorned with the flute and jeweled ornaments, who always revels in pastimes of love, whose graceful threefold bending form of Shamsundar is eternally manifest. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, whose transcendental form is full of bliss, truth, substantiality, and is thus full of the most dazzling splendor. Each of the limbs of that transcendental figure possesses in himself the full-fledged functions of all organs, and eternally sees, maintains, and manifests the infinite universes, both spiritual and mundane. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is inaccessible to the Vedas, but obtainable by pure, unalloyed devotion to the soul, who is without a second, who is not subject to decay, is without a beginning, whose form is endless, who is the beginning and the eternal Purusha, yet he is a person possessing the beauty of blooming youth. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, only the tip of the toe of whose lotus feet is approached by the yogis who aspire after the transcendental and betake themselves to pranayama by drilling the respiration, or by the jnanis who try to find out the non-differentiated Brahman by the process of elimination of the mundane, extending over thousands of millions of years. He is an undifferentiated entity, as there is no distinction between potency and the possessor thereof. In his work of creation of millions of worlds, his potency remains inseparable. All the universes exist in him, and he is present in his fullness in every one of the atoms that are scattered throughout the universe at one and the same time. Such is the primeval Lord whom I adore. I adore the same Govinda, the primeval Lord, in whose praise men who are imbued with devotion sing the mantra suktas told by the Vedas, by gaining their appropriate beauty, greatness, thrones, conveyances, and ornaments. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, residing in his own realm, Goloka, with Radha, resembling his own spiritual figure, the embodiment of the ecstatic potency possessed of the 64 artistic activities, in the company of her confidants, Shakis, embodiments of the extensions of her bodily form, permeated and vitalized by his ever-blissful spiritual rasa. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is Shamsundara, Krishna himself, with inconceivable, innumerable attributes, whom the pure devotees see in their heart of hearts, with the eye of devotion tinged with the salve of love. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who has manifested himself personally as Krishna and the different avatars in the world in the form of Rama, Nishinga, Vamana, etc., as his subjective portions. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, and Shri Brahma Samhita ki jai. Glorification of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.1.1. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Janmad Yasya Yato Niviyad Itaratas Chartesu Avigyaswarat. Tene Brahma Hidaya Adikavaye Uyanti Yatsurayaha. Tejo Varimidam Yata Vinimayo Yatra Chisargo Misha Tamna Swena Sada Nirasta Kuhakam Satyam Paramdi Mahi. O my Lord, Shri Krishna, Son of Vasudeva, O all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because he is the absolute truth and the primeval cause of all causes of the creation, sustenance, and destruction of manifested universes. He is independent. He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations, and he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji, the original living being. By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion, as one is bewildered by the illusory representations of water seen on fire or land seen on water. Only because of him do the material universes, temporarily manifested by the reactions of the three modes of material nature, appear factual, although they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri Krishna, who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode, which is forever free from the illusory representations of the material world. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth. So here when it says that only because of him do the material universes temporarily manifested by the reactions of the three modes of material nature appear factual, although they are unreal. That means that they're not eternal. So when something is not eternal, something is asat, it ultimately ends up being illusory because it disappears. It's not there anymore. And you're left with nothing. So therefore, it's considered unreal in that sense. Although it has temporarily it is there, but then it doesn't have immortality, so therefore it's bewildering because it disappears at one point and you're left with nothing. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.1.2 Dharma Projita Kaitravo Cha Nirmatsanam Satam Vedyam Vastram Matra Vastu Shividam Tapo Trayon Mulanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamani Krite Kimva Purer Ishwaraha Sadyo Hridaya Varudyate Cha Kriti Bihi Susupistakshanat. Completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated, this Bhagavad Purana propounds the highest truth, which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. Such truth uproots the threefold miseries. This beautiful Bhagavatam, compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in its maturity, is sufficient in itself for God realization. What is the need of any other scripture? As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam by this culture of knowledge, the Supreme Lord is established within his heart. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.1.3 Nigama kalpataro galitam phalam sukhamukad amrita dravya samyatam pibata bhagavatam rasam layam muhur ahoraska bhuvibhavakaha. O expert and thoughtful men, relish Srimad Bhagavatam, the mature fruit of the desired tree of Vedic literatures. It emanated from the lips of C. Sukadeva Goswami. Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful, although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all, including liberated souls. Srimad Bhagavatam, Grantaraj Ki Jai, Gaura Premanandi, Haribo, Haribo. We're very fortunate to be able to hear these prayers glorifying the Lord. And it's going to be directly related to what we're going to hear today. So today we are reading from Canto 3, Chapter 9, text number 38. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Tinamini Namaste Saraswati Deve Guruvani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskatya Satarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Srimad Bhagavatam Grantaraj Ki Jai. Text 38. Yaschakartanga Matsutram Matkatabhya Udayankitam Yadva tapasite nista sa samad anugraha Yat, that which Chakarta performed, Anga, O Brahma, Matsutram, prayers for me, Matkata, words regarding my activities, Abhyudaya Ankitam, enumerating my transcendental glories, Yet, or that, Va, either, Tapasi, in penance, Te, your, Nishta, faith, Sa, that, Asa, all these, Mat, my, Anugraha, causeless mercy. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. O Brahma, the prayers that you have chanted, praising the glories of my transcendental activities, the penances you have undertaken to understand me, and your firm faith in me, all these are to be considered my causeless mercy. This is a very interesting verse because there's a difference between being, let's say, rich, highly educated, famous, etc. That is not the causeless mercy of the Lord. But he's saying that his causeless mercy are these three things. Praising the glories of my transcendental activities, the penances that Brahma has undertaken to understand Krishna, and Brahma's firm faith in Krishna. All these are to be considered my causeless mercy. Now, we're going to read the purport and see exactly what's said here. When a living entity desires to serve the Lord in transcendental loving service, the Lord helps the devotee in so many ways as the Chaitya Guru. What's Chaitya Guru? Paramatma in the heart. He is the inside Guru. Or the spiritual master within. So Chaitya Guru is the spiritual master within. And the spiritual master without is the bona fide spiritual master who initiates and instructs. So you have the Shiksha and Diksha Gurus. They're as well as the Shastras and saints. They are the Guru without, and the Guru within is the Paramatma. The Lord helps the devotee in so many ways as a Chaitya Guru, or the spiritual master within, and thus the devotee can perform many wonderful activities beyond material estimation. So any limitation we may have due to conditioning becomes purified by engaging in pure devotional service. Then we can do things beyond material estimation. By the mercy of the Lord, even a layman, in other words, a layman means an ordinary person, can compose prayers of the highest spiritual perfection. Such spiritual perfection is not limited by material qualifications. In other words, it doesn't matter whether you're literate, illiterate, whether you're a PhD or you're XYZ. So it says, such spiritual perfection is not limited by material qualifications, but is developed by dint of one's sincere endeavor to render transcendental service. Voluntary endeavor is the only qualification for spiritual perfection. Voluntary endeavor is the only qualification for spiritual perfection. Material acquisitions of wealth or education are not considered. Wow, thank God. I don't need a PhD from Stanford or Princeton. All those people that get those PhDs, most of them end up becoming atheists, unfortunately for them. So material acquisitions of wealth and education are not considered. What's considered? Well, it's the volunteer endeavor. By the mercy of the Lord, even a layman can compose prayers of the highest spiritual perfection. Such spiritual perfection is not limited by material qualifications, but is developed by dint of one's sincere endeavor to render transcendental service. Voluntary endeavor is the only qualification for spiritual perfection. Material acquisitions of wealth or education are not considered. So this is a whole different system. And once we understand what this is being said, we suddenly realize the all-encompassing mercy of the Lord. He doesn't care if people are literate or illiterate. He's just looking at their hearts to see what their real desire is. If the real desire is Krishna and to glorify the Lord, then the Lord opens up all avenues of advancement for such a devotee. So we have to go deep into our own heart and see what is our motivation in life. What do we want to achieve? If our only desire is to engage in devotional service and please Guru and Krishna and glorify the Lord always, then the Lord opens up all the avenues of spiritual advancement for us. By the mercy of the Lord, even a layman can compose prayers of the highest spiritual perfection. Even before that it says, or the spiritual master. And thus the devotee can perform many wonderful activities beyond material estimation. We should not disbelieve this. We should believe this. You, even the most ordinary person, can do wonderful things beyond material estimation when their desire is pure to please Krishna. This is what we should meditate on, how to purify our desires and only desire to glorify the Lord. So every day we are reciting an essential part of the Brahma Samhita. We'll eventually be reciting the whole thing. But these are prayers glorifying the Lord. And Krishna is very pleased to hear this. And if the devotees are reciting this every day, and Lord is there as Paramatma is hearing this, he becomes very pleased and he will bless the devotee to do wonderful things in Krishna consciousness. Okay, so the voluntary endeavor is the only qualification for spiritual perfection. So it's not that we're being forced to do it, like the temple president or the leaders say, you have to do this. You're not forced to do this. Maybe in the beginning you are, but when it becomes voluntary endeavor, you do it with joy because it's for the glorification of the Lord. Then it's the only qualification for spiritual perfection. So what we see is an amazing level of purification of one's desires. And this is not something ordinary. It's exceptional. Most people can never reach such a level. Why? Only because of bad association. All day long, if you're associating with materialistic people, listening to them, listening to the news, watching this thing or that thing on the internet, we become contaminated by that. And we lose our compass. You look at your compass, you can always see which direction is north, so then you can plan your trip. We lose our compass by associating with the materialists. So we have to learn to work professionally, even with people who are not devotees, but not become involved in their lives and their nonsensical pastimes. It's a what you would call a balancing act to associate professionally, but not associate materially. So that way you just get the job done, what you have to do, but you don't get involved in people's lives. You don't get involved in their so-called pleasures. I went on vacation, I did this, I did that. Like, let me ask you a question. You work in a company, right, Prabhu? Or you?
Yes.
Right. So you have co-workers, right? So after the 4-day holiday, what did they talk about when they came to this? When they came to the
How they got wasted.
what?
How they got wasted, or
Oh, they were talking about getting drunk.
I mean, they normally all the time they talk about it. How they got drunk and whole night
How they were partying.
partying.
Yeah, you see, after a 4-day vacation, right? They come back and they talk about what they did. Oh, I went skiing, or I climbed a mountain, or I got this date with this pretty girl, or this thing or that thing. They're just talking about nonsense. Right? You see, this is so. When you hear that, it affects you. So you have to be careful. You don't want to say, "Oh, I don't want to hear your nonsense." You don't want to say that because then they'll get angry. So, "Oh, well, I'm glad you had a good time." But excuse me, I had to do this. Get back to work. It starts with what? What they did? How was your weekend? Yeah, they always ask you, how was your weekend? Yeah. Now, before they go through the weekend, they say, well, have a great weekend. Right? Then when you come back, say, how was your weekend? Right? So you see, this is mundane life. They're not glorifying the Lord. They're not thinking about the Lord at all. So sometimes you feel, oh, well, I'm the only person doing this. Maybe there's something wrong with me. Right? Everybody else seems to be happy. I had a great time. I did this. I did that. But actually, this voluntary endeavor is the only qualification for spiritual purification, perfection. So we have to be careful about how we're associating with the materialist that we're obliged to work with, if it just stays on a professional level and does not become personal. Personal means, you're listening in depth of all the nonsense they did on the weekend, or their problems. Someone will come in and say, "Oh, I'm feeling terrible because my uncle just died," or "I'm so afraid they might, terminate my job." So every time there's something going on in their life, and it has nothing to do with Krishna consciousness. So the more you hear those things, the more you get affected by it. So we have to be very careful. We should commiserate. That is, well, yeah, it's, I'm sorry to hear your mother died, or your husband is sick, or your kids are smoking marijuana, whatever, whatever problems they have in their life. But we should be ready as a first responder. The first responder is a trained person who comes right after there's an accident and does something to help the people who are injured while waiting for the ambulance to come with the trained and highly equipped doctors and so forth, and taking the injured person to the hospital. So we are first responders. People have a tragedy, and sometimes they talk to devotees because they know he's not exactly the same as everybody else. This is a sincere person. Maybe I can reveal myself to this person. So you have to be. You can't force preaching, especially in the work atmosphere. But you can be a good person by bringing prasadam and sharing it with people. Of course, don't tell them I offered this to my God, because they might not eat it if you say that. But you share prasadam. You always speak kindly. You cooperate. You don't get into any controversies. You don't get into any, try and avoid any types of arguments. Sometimes it's not easy because people ask your opinion, and then somebody doesn't agree with you. It could turn into an argument, right? So you have to balance your spiritual life and your material, engagement to make money. But you can do it. You can do it if you're hearing regularly Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam in the association of devotees. You can do it and not be let's say, not go away from pure devotional service. Okay, so are there any questions about this verse? Yes. Okay, we'll come back.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances.
Hare Krishna.
My question is, when this material world is illusory, and when material acquisition or education are not considered, and I have also learned from your lectures that even elephant is taken care by the Lord. So then, why to even waste 1 second in any other endeavor other than spiritual endeavor?
Because of responsibilities that you assumed before you became a devotee. So you can't just walk away, especially from children and marriage and things like that. Those are responsibilities that you voluntarily accepted. So you have to be very patient. They're not going to last forever, and eventually you'll be free. But if you walk away, that is very, very sinful, especially walking away from a child or getting a divorce or all these things. They're very, very bad things to do because it just creates havoc in the life, in your life and in the life of the child and even the husband, whatever. So it's very important not to break the responsibilities that you accepted voluntarily. But now you have to add the Krishna consciousness to your life, and then have a tremendous amount of tolerance and perseverance and deep, let's say, understanding of what Krishna consciousness is, so that you don't hurt anyone. One of the biggest mistakes a person can make is to abandon a child. That is like the worst thing you can do. Because the child depends on you. So then when people get divorces, it's like devastating for kids. All of a sudden their world falls apart. Previously there were very few divorces, especially in India. Very, very few. Because it was frowned upon. It was not socially acceptable. But that's not the real reason. The real reason is that if you bring someone into this world, you have the responsibility to train them to become a devotee. And if you don't, then you're violating the whole purpose of birth. So these are responsibilities that we have accepted, maybe without understanding the serious consequences. But once you become Krishna conscious, you have to understand the serious consequences of abandoning those responsibilities. And they're going to end. They're not going to last forever. You know, kids grow up actually very quickly. And then if they've been trained nicely, they become devotees. Like one of the best things I've seen in my life is my kids, when at a certain point they were not very Krishna conscious. And at another point they become Krishna conscious. Right? Because they got that in the beginning, then they went to school and got poisoned, and now they came back. So that's a great, great experience when you see that. So at least 5 of my kids have become Krishna conscious. One is still not determined, but eventually it'll happen, I think. But see, the purpose of having children is to train them to be Krishna conscious. So whether you have usually when they're little kids, they're more or less, they just go along with whatever you do, whatever you say. When you send them to school and they get bombarded with all kinds of nonsense, and it weakens their determination to be Krishna conscious, then they go out into the world, and eventually they realize, look, what my mother and father taught me when I was younger, that was actually something real. What I'm doing now is complete nonsense. I'm going to stop. Right? And come back to what was actually real, what is actually real. That is Krishna consciousness. So when we say the material world is illusory, it doesn't mean, it's not illusory in the sense of the Mayavadis that say it doesn't exist. It's illusory because it's not eternal. So we don't say, oh, this building is an illusion. No, it's here, this building, right? We don't say this microphone is an illusion. No, it's here. But it's illusory in the sense that it's not eternal. So eventually it's going to disappear. Not going to be there anymore. And you end up with just a memory, not the real, not the material thing. So while there is material existence of something, you should use it only in the service of Krishna. That way we're not affected by it. But if we use things in sense gratification, I'll give you an example. There was this lady called Mata Hari. She was a French lady that learned something about India. And then she used to dress up like an Indian goddess and do some phony dance routines. And she became a spy also. And she was also a prostitute, but very famous. And her name was Mata Hari. And you can go on the internet, you'll find a lot about her, although it's not really worth seeing. So there was this one man that had some relationship with her. And 60 years later, after by the way, she was caught being a spy and put to death. She had a horrible death. So this man had a relationship with her, physical relationship. So when this man was 80, 90 years old, he was still thinking about her and reliving in his mind his relationship with her. That's how powerful Maya is, right? Rather than thinking about, hey, I'm 90 years old, I could die any time, maybe I should get serious about spiritual life. No, he's just focusing on Mata Hari, who was a nonsense person, basically. And because he had some physical relationship with her, he couldn't get it out of his mind, even when he was 90 years old. This is very dangerous. This is very dangerous. So therefore, if we have engaged in sense gratification, it's very important that we purify all that by constantly glorifying the Lord and thinking about Krishna and getting these things out of our mind and out of our consciousness. Otherwise, at the moment of death, you'll see very quickly everything you did, good or bad. And if it's mostly bad, then you go, you get a lower birth. And if it's almost all good, then you get a positive birth. And if it's completely good, you go back to Godhead. So we should work on completely eliminating all nonsense concepts in the mind and just focus on glorifying the Lord. So, does that answer your question?
Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj.
Okay, we have another question here. You see how powerful sense gratification can be? You could be thinking about it right up to the moment of death. It's very dangerous. Go ahead.
Yeah, Maharaj, I think it's connected to the same thing, and the verse here, it says that even the penances you have undertaken to understand me and your firm faith in me, they're all considered to be my causeless mercy.
And there were three things.
Yeah, the glorifications, the penances, and the faith.
So those are not like you're rich, you're highly educated, you're famous. Those are not counted as those
Qualifications.
Yeah.
Yeah, but my question, Maharaj, is how much is the jiva's determination? Because in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Dhrida Vrata is what we must give, like determination to follow. And then, so are we to understand that we do that, but then whether our full firm faith actually develops or not is still the mercy of the Lord?
Okay. So you have voluntary endeavor.
Yes.
Right? So that voluntary endeavor begins the dynamic of causeless mercy. Just like when someone comes to you and says, I have a lot of respect for you, and whatever you ask me to do, I'll do for you, I'll help you. Well, that's not a business relationship. It goes way beyond that. This is someone who's dedicating their energy, their intelligence, their money to help you in every way. So you would not see it as a material thing. You would say, well, I don't understand why they're doing it, but I'm happy they're doing it. So when Krishna sees that you voluntarily endeavor to serve him without any other purpose than to please him, that begins this transcendental relationship. And the causeless mercy takes over. Because there's no material motive. It's just pure love and devotion for the Lord. So this is the mystery of Krishna consciousness. Number one, the material world, the real purpose of it. Then there's two purposes. One is to give the nonsense people a chance to engage in sense gratification if they want to. But the other real purpose is to give the jiva a chance to go back to Godhead after being in the material world for millions and millions of years in different bodies. And now they're in a human body, and they have a chance to understand their relationship with Krishna. You can't understand your relationship with Krishna as a dog or a cat or a worm or whatever, but as a human being you can. And it takes a long time to come up to the human being form. Here now you have a chance. You have this human body, you have human intelligence. These are all instruments, or these are all assets for understanding our relationship with Krishna, not for understanding, our vacation, and, we went skiing, and we did this, and we did that. That's not the purpose of human life. So when you see these people come back from a vacation and they're just talking about their vacation and what they ate and this thing and that thing, you see how bankrupt they are spiritually, completely bankrupt, have no thoughts at all, no serious thinking at all about, look, at any moment I could die. What is the purpose of human life? Well, the real purpose of human life is to go back to Godhead in this lifetime, or in some close future lifetime. So this is what we have to understand, is the purpose of life, and the purpose of our human body, and the purpose of our time that we have. And we don't know how much time we have. So once we begin to think like this, we become serious about Krishna consciousness. And then we help other people also. Does that answer your question?
Yes, Maharaj. Yeah. So it starts with our unalloyed endeavor, devotion to the Lord, but then the Lord will bless depending on our sincerity and.
Yeah. All right. So we'll end there. We'll go on. By the way, I don't know why, somehow or other I can't find all the information you gave me about going to hell. of the
I
Christians.
sent it via text, Maharaj. Maybe I'll send it in email.
Okay, yes, send me an email. Okay. Yes? Tells you about what happens when you die.
Yes, it tells where do you go, how you cross Veterani River, how do you do. I actually got a copy because when the death happens in the house, then the Handas come and they recite that Quran. Apparently, they say you can't read it until unless somebody has died in your house.
Anyway,
But that's like a complete graphics of how the
you have the same thing in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto. But the Garuda Purana, and the best thing is just concentrate on Brahma Samhita. Don't concentrate everything on the Garuda Purana. Just concentrate on the Brahma Samhita because that has glorification of Krishna. Garuda Purana is telling you about, what happens when you die and where you're going to go, and the different types of hell there are, different areas of hell. Is that right? Huh?
it's a journey to Yamloka. Yeah.
Journey to what?
Journey to Yamloka, Veterani River, and Kumbhapeta Narak, and all the various kinds of Narak.
Yeah. So, I mean, does that sound like a wonderful thing to read? I don't think so. All the different places of hell. And the same thing is there in the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. But we should learn about all the wonderful places in Vaikuntha and how to go there. That's what we should focus on. So, when people hear about the Garuda Purana, does it actually influence them? I don't think so. I don't think so. Have you ever been there when they're reciting the Garuda Purana?
Yeah, I was really scared to the core. I was like, I am going to hell for sure. And this is too torturous. And I was like really upset that, what.
How long ago was that? How old were you?
In December 2022
Wow. And this was in India or here?
in India.
Yeah. Yeah, it's scary, isn't it? Hearing about all the different areas of hell and all the different punishments, right? So is that something we should meditate on every day? Or I think we have a chance of meditating on where's Vaikuntha, where's Goloka, what's going on there? That's positive, that's transcendental, you see. Okay, we'll end there. Thank you very much.
Maharaj, one quick question.
Yes, sir.
Maharaj, the Brahma,
What?
in this sloka, the Brahma, the prayer that you have chanted, praising the glories of my transcendental activities.
Yes.
But Brahma was actually only meditating, right? In the sense, he was chanting the names of the Krishna. When you say glories, means we need to, I'm not clear what are the things we need to do to glorify the
No,
Krishna.
it's this whole chapter. Chapter 9. You have to read if you read all the verses that we've been reading, that's all glorification of Krishna. It's amazing glorification of Krishna.
Whatever he's recitating before seeing the Krishna, that's
Krishna, first of all, Brahma is glorifying Krishna. That was the first part of this chapter. And then Krishna glorifies Brahma for his endeavors to serve him. You have to read this carefully. If you go back and begin to read what Brahma says about Krishna, and then you hear what Krishna says about Brahma, then you understand what's going on. This is all glorification of the Lord.
My question was, when we are doing the chanting, whether we need to think about any glorification when we daily do the chanting.
you think about Krishna, you're saying the names of Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama, Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Rama
Rama
Rama,
Rama.
Hare Hare.
So you're meditating on the Lord. And you're glorifying the Lord by His name.
That is enough, Maharaj? Or we need to read this chapter again and again?
You can do both. That's what we're doing, isn't it? We're reading this chapter verse by verse. It's been going on for weeks. Right. So you can do also. Both.
Okay, Maharaj.
Haribol. All glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Thank you very much. Yeah, I saw it. Thank you. I don't know, when it's not if it's a text or if it's not. Yeah, I know. There must be ways to access it, but I don't know.
Also, you wanted me to pull up the specific verses that it is referring?
What I'm saying is better to send me an email rather than send me a text.
No, I sent it an email just
No,
now.
I know.
In general, in the future, I'll do it.
Yeah.
But are you also asking, for example, here it says Luke 16 to 16?
Yeah, all that, yeah.
So you want the specific verse of the Luke?
No, I can look that up
Okay,
myself.
okay, yeah.
It just isn't, yeah.
I see.
It's really scary, isn't it? It's so mean. Now, you were here when I talked about Mudgala.
Look.
Yeah, you see, look at the difference. It was the Jews. They started it. I'll talk about this.
Because I think if it is Jesus Christ, when he's the Son of God, he wouldn't have revealed that way.
Well, no, he's also saying you have to accept him. There's a difference between Jesus Christ and Haridas Thakur. Haridas Thakur is willing to take the sins of everybody. Jesus Christ will only accept the sins of people that accept him as the Son of God.
So Jesus Christ is more like maybe like a guru kind of.
Well, he's a pure devotee, but there are different levels of pure devotees. So a devotee who anonymously is willing to accept all the sins of the people in the world is different than Jesus Christ. And this is explained in Chaitanya Charitamrita. I can show you.
Yeah, I know you mentioned once the contrast between Jesus Christ and.
I don't know if it was Haridas Thakur or somebody else. Anyway, I'll look it up.
It's someone else what you mentioned.
Yeah, it's somebody else. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakti Sadma
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakti Sadma
Bannamui Savadana Mate
Mandamuri Sabadana Mate
Jahara Prasave Bai E Baba Tori Ajay Krishna Prapti ho jaya hote Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitate Koriya आशा श्री गुरु चरणे रति ऐसे उत्तम गति जय प्रसाद पूरे सर्व आशा चक्षुदान दिलो जय जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशिता प्रेम भक्ति जहाँ होते अविद्या विनाश जते हृदय का जहर चरित श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु आदम जे नर बंधु लोकेनाथ लोके रजीवाना हा हा प्रभु करो दया देहा मोरे पादा छाया ए बेगास गोसुख त्रिभुवाना श्रील प्रभुपाद पतित पवाना जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा
जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा
जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा नमो ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रस्थाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामी नित्यनामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाशदादिशतारिणे
नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यादेशतारिणे
श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैता गरधर शिवस्वरित गौर भक्त वृंदा
श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैता गणधर शिवसदि गौर भक्त वृंदा
हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Nitya Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitya Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. The only way by which to enter and pure devotional service. I bow down to his lotus feet with great honor and reverence. By his grace, one can crush the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish is that my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attaching to his lotus feet the perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. Birth of birth. From him exact permanent emanates. By him an ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master, the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor and the Lord of master devotees. O Master, be merciful unto us. Give shelter to lotus feet. Your fame spread all over the three worlds. We take shelter of lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Namaste, Saraswati Devi, Guruvani Pujari, Nirvis.